Good evening, everybody. This is Maxine English coming from Unlocking the Fearless You, coming on to you from Inspire to Achieve Global TV. And with me, I've got Mr. David Bell.
Good evening,
Hi.
everybody. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Yourself?
Absolutely fabulous. I mean,
Brilliant.
Mr. Bell, you've got so much underneath your belt. I thought it was only right that at the beginning of the year, we had to bring you on because not only have you gone through so many amazing things, you've done such amazing things to other people and helped them out in everything that they've done. And not only that, with all the things that we've got coming up, I thought that you can help out some of our people that have never done it before. So how do you think about that?
Sounds like fun. We're going to have some fun, actually. We've
We
got
are going to have some fun.
lots to discuss, and I'm sure it's going to end up going off different tangents. And it's going to be an exploratory an hour, hopefully. We'll get to an hour.
I think we probably will end up doing an hour because there is so much there that we can help other people with that, you know, you might even get the best of both worlds and actually have us for our hour. What do you think, guys? Does that sound good to you? So we've got Robert Brooker online today. Robert Brooker is coming all the way from Canada. We've got Umar in the house. He's Happy Cabs in Chelmsford. We've also got Inspire to Achieve Global TV. Put in who you are so we know exactly who you are and what you're doing. We've also got Robert has put greetings, Maxine, and Mr. David Bell. We've also got in the house Adam Shelton. Adam comes from North England. So he's up there being a northerner. We've also got Jenny. She's in the house today. So we've got quite a few people joining us today. That's exactly what we like to see. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to actually talk a little bit about David because David has got this massive amount of information that he can give you. Now, we're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about coaching. We're going to talk about, you know, everything comes down even to public speaking and what we can do to help you grow your business, move you forward, get you unstuck. And also when it comes down to, you know, getting your public speaking out there, because we've got this massive event coming up in February and also the wellness one in January. And there's going to be a lot of speakers that are going to be brand new on there. And this is the man. This is the man. So this is the reason why he's here. So, David, you, mister, are a multi-millionaire as well, but also a multi-winning company director. You've just award-winning. I can't believe. I mean, me personally, I have seen all your awards that you've got, and it is absolutely amazing. Guys, I'm going to go through this with you because, you know, he has got so much going on. It's ridiculous. Okay, so you're a company director, you're an entrepreneur, you're an executive business coach, and you're also a motivational speaker. So what made you get into doing the speaking side?
Speaking, well, a bit like we spoke previously in the past.
Yeah.
Public speaking for me, I hated it. Walking up on, I would call it a stage. Even if you've got two people in the room, you stand up in front of somebody and you're on your own pedestal, you're on your own stage at that particular time. And I go back to when I just started my first business when I was 17 years old. And the best way to market who you are and what you do is to get up in front of a room of people and talk about it. You know, share some stories, share, you know, what your business is about, share some of the things that you've done with other customers, not sell to people, but give them experiences, give them a feeling that they can actually understand, they can follow you on that journey. But I hated it, but I had to push myself out of that comfort zone. So at a young age, I knew I had to do it. And it took so much to get up in front of, in most cases, most people in the room were a lot older than me. You know, I was quite young, starting my business, 17, 18 years old. I was probably sitting in the room with people who are 30, 40 years old, maybe even older. So I was very out of my comfort zone. But I pushed and pushed and pushed. And by doing it, I realised every time I got up there and said something, every time I shared a new story, every time I shared an inspiration, every time I told somebody what's happened, you know, in my life, in my business, and not all good stuff. You know, some of this can be things that have happened where you've had big challenges. I don't like the word problems, but when you've had challenges in business, you've faced these challenges and how you overcome them using, you know, people that you're speaking with and liaising with. And it was by doing it become easier and easier and easier. And then I started to love standing up in front of an audience, and I love to share those stories. And it become passionate. I just wanted to stand up there and say, look, guys, if I can stand here and talk to you, and I hated it, and I shivered in my boots when I first got up here and did it, and my palms were all sweaty and sticky, and I felt everyone was going to laugh at me or, you know, say, you know, some heckle from the back of the room or something like that. If I can do it, then everyone else can do it. So that's really what led me to setting up the Speaker Expert Academy. working with business owners, not only business owners, it was the teams as well. So it could have been, you know, the sales manager needs to gain more confidence. And it was bringing those people together in small mastermind type groups and actually getting them to gain the confidence in a safe environment. So they could stand up and they could share their stories with people in the room who are also there for the same reason. And by doing that, they now have learned, you know, it's an ongoing process. Hey, I can do this. And the first time is tough. The second time is still tough, but it gets easier. One step at a time. So I've really led to try and take, in the initial stage, to take business owners who have got a great idea, got potentially a really good, solid business, to get them to share their stories, because it's such a powerful way of marketing who you are and what you do. And that's what opened up the Speaker Expert and how I started speaking and sharing with others.
Fantastic. And that's the thing, it is very much, you know, I was exactly the same when it come down to, you know, last year. It was very much like, you know, to stand up on stage in front of loads of people. I remember, and it's actually been quite ironic, because I sat at the Islet Hotel like 4 years ago, and I went and see John Lee, and I was sitting at the front and was listening to all the things that he was saying with obviously the people that he's got up there with. And they passed me the microphone, and I remember passing the microphone, they asked me to stand up, and I stood there and I fell apart. And I was like, all these people were behind me, and I just stood there with this microphone. I just went, and I just couldn't speak. So I took the microphone away and then just shouted and spoke to them as loudly as I could so people could hear. But obviously the people behind me couldn't hear. So I can imagine it's like when you were saying that you was like 17, 18 years old, it was very much that, and all people were in their like 30s, 40s and 50s, it's very much that it can be quite intimidating.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have some people at this event, and there's going to be like 1,100 people there a day. I mean, I've not spoken in front of 1,100 people yet, so you know it's going to be a big one for me too. And also you're standing with people like Greg Walker, you got Alfie Best, you got Andy Harrison, you're standing with all the greats. And the fact is that when you're standing with them kind of people, it puts extra pressure on people that have never actually done it before, and it's so. People just think, you know, how can I do this? How can I get over that? And like, as you said, like your knees are knocking, your palms are sweaty, you know, but it does get easier as you go along, and it is just keep doing it over and over again. It's the same as broadcasting. It's the same as anything you do in life. You've got to just keep going at it. And I suppose that's what you did with your speakeasy, because you founded that, was it I haven't got that far yet, so you started speaking about it already. You founded that in, it was at 2015.
15, yeah.
15, yeah. Hang on, we'll go down to that one then, as we'll speak about that one first. Yeah, so you got quite a lot of experience when it comes down to presenting, also awards, also ceremonies, going into universities, and also doing a lot of corporate events. So how do you find that with the speakeasy that you did? If someone's come onto that stage and it's the first time that they've ever walked on a stage and they're going to have 1,100 people in front of them, what would you say for them to do to calm their nerves down and say that they can get something out of their mouth to start with?
Yeah, I think you've got to start from the beginning, really. I mean, stand up in front of 1,100 people is going to be intimidating for anybody that's maybe never stood on a stage. They're going to be very concerned and worried about how they're going to, you know, are they going to be loud enough? Are people going to be able to hear them? Are they going to be doing the right things at the right time? You know, are they going to overrun or fall short? Have they got enough information? There's so much going through someone's head. And for me, it's about what I call the 3 Ps. So it's all about the preparation, it's all about the practice, and it's all in the planning as well. So if you take those 3 things, it's my number 1 tip for speaking in front of an audience. You know, prepare. Get everything prepared you need. You know, not the night before, weeks before maybe. You know, that would be your content. Make sure you practice, because the more you practice, the easier it becomes. So, you know, whether you in practice in front of, you know, the mirror, for some that works, you know, standing in an open room and just, you know, no one else in there, maybe in front of friends and family, but keep practicing and keep rehearsing to a degree, but don't make it rigid. You don't want it to be almost like it's rehearsed absolutely perfectly, because people, you know, buy into people, and not everything's going to go right. You know, expect the unexpected at times. And when you do arrive, you know, at the venue that they're going to be speaking at, 1,100 people will roll into that room at some point, but check out the venue first. You know, go and look at where you're going to be standing. No, you know, ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, where would you like me to stand? I've never used a microphone before. What do I do with a microphone? How do I hold it? Is it, you know, if it's if it's a handheld stick or if it's a boom mic or a type-in mic or something like that. You know, just ask the questions. Maybe have do a sound test, play with it. But the fact is, probably if you've got 1,100 people in the room, it's no different to having 10 people. When you're standing there, you're still sharing the same message. You're still taking people on a journey. And I actually find that more people in the room, the easier it becomes, because there's more people listening to you. There's more people having that. They're not having a conversation with you because they're rhetorical questions, but you're asking questions. You can see the nods. You can see the engagement. And one of my other tips in this day and age, and I'm a technologist, and I love technology, so my mobile goes everywhere with me. You know, I use it like a lot of us for a lot of my life now. Don't be put off if you see 1,100 people sitting in the audience all with their mobile phones in front of them, because they will. In this day and age, people pick up, check their emails, check their various Facebook messages or whatever it's going to be, social media. Just think positively. And the way I get around is I hold my, if the people have got their phones, I'm looking at, and I can see people every now and then picking up their phone. I think, brilliant. They're sending out a positive tweet about my presentation or about my talk. And that's the way I kind of deal with these things. Turn anything that some would see as a negative, turn it into a positive. And just believe in yourself. And that is the key. Do your best, and it will be your best. Don't panic. Take your time. You've got all the time in the world. And just enjoy it. Have fun. You know, if you're not having fun, then the audience are probably not having fun either. So if you're having fun and enjoying it, big smiles, then everyone else will be with you on that as well.
Absolutely fantastic. A bit of advice there. If you excuse me, I am just so everybody knows, I am bunged up with a really bad cold, and you know, makeup is actually covering a lot of it, so which is absolutely fantastic. But at the same time, it's like my eyes are streaming, and yeah, so do bear with me. I'm going to let David talk to his heart's content today.
But you've got some to change the subject round. Talking of speaking, you were ultra nervous of speaking. And you picked up some golden gongs last year, didn't you?
I did. I met David, when was it? I think it was about May last year, I think it was. And we sat together, and we were sitting together for probably about 2 or 3 hours, wasn't it, in total? You did your talk for, something like that. And we had quite a few conversations after, and the amount of knowledge that you've got is off the chain. And I was just like, right, you know, as soon as it comes to the new year, it's definitely going to get you in the hot seat. And pick the brains, you know, get the information out, because, you know, that kind of information, people sometimes find it really hard to find or don't know where to find it. And, you know, if I can bring that to people, you know, then it's absolutely amazing. And I do appreciate you being here, because I'm obviously that you're also really, really busy. So let's go back to talking a little bit about you. So we've talked about, obviously, you being a director. We've talked about you being an award-winning company, and also, you know, being a business coach, motivational speaker. Now, also, you co-founded APC Solutions, which you did wireless communications for, didn't you? Wireless communication solutions. And now you're a multi-million-pound company with that. I mean, how did you start with that one? You're saying you like technology.
Exactly that. So when I was at school, I had a passion for technology. I enjoyed learning, taking things apart, you know, understanding the technology behind what makes something work. And I had an opportunity to go on to further education when I left school, but I decided actually I wanted to set up my first business, and I formed an IT company. So I was 17 years old. I had some, I'll call it loose change. It was some pocket money that I'd earned from, you know, doing some part-time work and working in a software development company. And I poured that into my first business. So it was £1,000 roughly, give or take. And I set up an IT company, and it was a B2B, so I was working with other businesses, helping them, you know, get their network and systems into place. Bear in mind, we're talking about the mid-90s now. So, you know,
Windows, so it all first come out, all the dial-up.
Yeah, it was dial-up. Everything was very slow, floppy disks and
I remember them.
Stuff like that. So it was about helping other businesses. It was providing the support and the maintenance. And the story changed actually in the late 90s. I had a business partner, myself and my business partner, Chris. We got on really, really well. And we decided that a client of ours needed connectivity between two buildings in Colchester. So Essex and Colchester and Essex, so nice and local to where we were running the business. They needed to connect two buildings for their telephony, so that's their voice communications and computer data. And they approached us because we were looking after their IT systems. And they said, you know, can you help us? So we did some research into it. We come up with a product or a solution, and we installed that product and solution. And we realized they were amazingly happy with it. You know, that was the first thing. They had invested in a solution that had actually ticked all their boxes, and they couldn't, they couldn't believe what we've achieved for them based on their criteria. And we thought, this is interesting. This is very niche. There's not many providers, or very little providers out there doing what we did for them. So we started to do a lot more research, and that's what kind of changed the company from being a typical IT provider, turned us into a communications provider, a telecommunications provider. And we started providing high-speed data through the air. So rather than through a fiber cable, as people talk about these days, we were actually beaming using laser beams, or what they call free space optics, which is that light through the air, or radio waves, licensed and unlicensed radio. And we started to build a really good clientele database, some really large blue chip companies throughout the UK. That then opened up other markets into Europe for us, South Africa. So we had 2 offices in Johannesburg and Cape Town in South Africa. Fantastic place to work. You spent more time on wine farms and in bars and pubs doing business than you did actually kind of sitting in the office. North America, in Ohio, so near Detroit, a place called Fremont in Ohio, and also in the Middle East as well. So we're now kind of grown into a bit more of a global organisation. But we were very well known for what we did. Motorola, we were Motorola's gold application partner. So that was in the EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East and Africa. So Motorola recognised who we were. So a lot of projects come to us from these big global enterprises, the brands that you often see on the TV, or, if you think of probably the top 100 brands, we were, certainly working with a number of those. And it was fantastic. Loved it. Brilliant. We sold the IT company, I think it was around about 2007, 2008. So we kind of shifted that out because we wanted to focus on the communications company. The business grew, and everything was hunky-dory. Myself and Chris, I'd say we probably, in 20 years of working together around the business, we probably had 5 disagreements in the 20 years.
More than some marriages.
Absolutely, and we kind of had our, and that night we went home, we slept on it, we come back the next morning, we had a kiss and a cuddle, and off we went the next day. We knew that business was important, and we're still very good friends, till today as well. But it was around about 2013, or the end of 2013, it was coming up to Christmas, I decided it was time to do something new. I had already just launched Symbok, which is a business consultancy and management company. And it was working with the likes of small business owners, the SME market, helping them to grow and project their business in the right way. So they wanted to, lots of different people want to move their businesses on. That's the goal of most, people's desires in business, to start with something very small and build and develop it. So Symbok was created around that, about helping people achieve their goals. That could be implementing technologies. That could be helping them with their public speaking, which actually come slightly later on. But it was really about taking them from where they are today to where they want to get to. And the main thing was how they were going to get there. So it was forming the business plan. It was forming the steps to allow them to grow their business at the right rate, rather than expanding too big overnight or taking too long and they won't necessarily hit their goals. And I sat down with Chris one day and I kind of shared this vision with him, and he asked me one question. He said, "How are you going to do both?" And it was a very fair question of a business partner to ask me. And I went, "I don't know, actually, because if this Symbok really takes off, it's going to absorb a percentage of my time." So that was the starting of myself actually saying to Chris, "Well, why don't you, take over APC, buy my shares?" And that is what did happen. It took several months thereafter. I then left APC, resigned as a director and as a shareholder, and then ventured on the journey of Symbok. And that's kind of where we've come to right up until today. I have some other interests in some other businesses as well. But
share, absolutely fine, share. And ladies and gents, also
my main focus.
Fantastic. So also, ladies and gents, if you have got any questions for David, ask away. I will be going through those a little bit later. So at least then, if you've got any questions you want to ask him, whether it comes down to technology or marketing or public speaking or anything to do with business. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a life and business coach and a fit. So it's very much that, you can ask him quite a lot of questions. I'm not saying you have to ask him loads of questions, but I'm just saying in general, there is a lot of different topics that you can speak to him about. So your other businesses that you've got, so you've got quite a few of those different ones, and I suppose that they're very much on the side, and you put your toes in a little bit and see how you get on with those.
Yeah.
So would you call yourself an investor in other companies, or would you say that you help businesses? Or
I'm always looking at opportunities.
okay.
So yes, as an investor, to be honest, I'm not a cash investor, so I don't look at helping people. They just want money. There's better ways of achieving, their goals of getting money, and that might be through a bank, that might be through, private equity investors.
Yeah. Angel investor or something.
From my point of view, if I'm going to invest in a business, I'm looking for a business that I can work within. I can guide them, help them, not control. It's their business, but certainly be kind of on the sidelines. Could be as a what we call a NED, a non-executive director, even. So someone that can help them grow and develop their business by being there as a sounding board. So when things are not quite going right, they can ask the questions. When things are going really well, we can celebrate the successes. So it is holding them accountable as well, which is what life's really about. If you've set yourself a goal, and it could be for some, I want to, give up drinking, stop smoking. We've all had bad habits, etc. But if you actually share that with lots of people, you're much more likely to succeed at it. And it's the same in business. If you share what your plans are, what your goals are with the right people, you're so much more likely to achieve those goals. So accountability is super important. So yes, from an investment point of view, I'm always looking at what those options are. But for me, I wouldn't invest in lots of businesses. I would only want maybe 3 or 4 businesses that I'm working with closely from me invested in their business.
Fantastic there. Right, so we're going to talk a little bit about your rewards now. Right, you ready for this one, guys? Because it's like, its list is just endless. So we've got in 2015, David was awarded an honorary fellowship of the Institute of Enterprise and Entrepreneurs in his contribution to UK enterprise. That was one. In June 2017, David was awarded fellowship FCIM status as a member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. Awarded honorary fellowship of the no, I've done that one. Sorry, STEM UK Inspirational Ambassador Finalist 2016. Essex Business Champion of year 2016 East of England. East of England Business Champion of the year 2015. Essex Business Champion of the year. Oh, I wrote that again twice. Sorry. Awarded an honorary fellowship of the Institute of Enterprise Entrepreneurs and contribution to the UK enterprise in 2015. Essex and Business Champion of the year 2014, East of England. Entrepreneur of the year 2013, finalist for National UK Entrepreneurs Award. Business Person of the year 2013, finalist and prestigious Comms Awards in London. Business Person of the year 2013, finalist for East of England. Business Person of the year 2012, finalist for East of England. Best Motorola Application Partner 2011 in Europe, Middle East and Africa. Businessman of the year 2011 for Essex. Businessman of the year 2011 for finalists for Essex countrywide. Is there anything that you've not done?
There's lots of things I haven't done. There's lots of things that are on my bucket list to do. I mean, these all sound great, but for me, I mean, business is about achieving. You've got to set yourself some goals and go for it. The awards are nice things to have, and sometimes, certainly running your own business, if it's you in the business, even if you've got a business partner, no one really pats you on the back as a business owner. So you sometimes need external sources, recognition, to give you that pat on the back. And it's lovely to have. But I would say to anybody, having those is lovely to have, but you don't need them. The best way in business is to get yourself out there, meet people, build relationships, deliver something that has a USP, which is a little bit different, a little bit unique, stand out from the crowd. And if you can tick those boxes, some of the if someone's inspiration is to be rich and famous, then of course that's the route that you're going to go. But if you just want to have a good, solid business, you want to grow that business, maybe you want to flip it and sell it in the future, maybe you want to pass it down the family, you don't need to have all these things stacked up underneath you. You just need to be sincere and get out there and do it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So we've got on here, Robert is put, Susan's put wow, by the way. She's well impressed with that. Susan's coming in from America. Robert's put, I love technology too. I just had an idea. In the US and Canada, which is in Canada, there are advertising beacons you can lease that will continually broadcast to anyone that comes within range to message to their phones. Would it be fun to play with that at an empowerment event? How would that work, David?
So I think what Robert's alluding to here is that there's a couple of different services available. One is Bluetooth. So if you had a shop or a location, a shopping centre, as you come close to that, some of you might see this over here in the UK as well. As you get close to or in range of that Bluetooth, it can send you a message. And those messages can be obviously delivered by the agent, i.e. the retail outlet, etc. And it could be a special offer they provide or something like that. So Bluetooth's one way. There's other near-field services as well. So where lots of Android phones and mobile phones now have built into it, as they come close to something, a bit like when you use your card over a card reader, it can send a message. Could be a photo, actually. It could be whatever you want it to do. So I think that's what Robert's suggesting there. That'd be quite good fun. You know, as you pass that, it sends a message about, you know, being empowered and stuff like that.
Yeah. Robert, I think you've got a really good idea then. I think it's one to send to Brad. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Obviously, when he's a little bit better. Also, Richard's put, sorry, it's a bit tall, I know, sorry. Thing with me is I did speak on a stage. Doing Facebook Lives I find easy, but I have more anxiety and more I practice because my anxiety goes ape. Because I then imagination goes, I'm going to mumble or forget my lines, because the more I practice a speech, the worse it gets. I find more easy if I'm natural, authentic, and my flow.
Yeah. So for some, I mean, we're all different, and this is the key. You've got to find what you're comfortable with and what works for you. And I know people that will never do a Facebook Live video. They'd rather pre-record it and then be able to check it over and edit it and cut it and chop it and then put it out there to the masses.
I remember being like that last year.
But I actually find doing something live is so much better, because we're all going to make mistakes, and that's part and parcel. People are not sitting there going, "Oh, make a mistake. I want to," you know, that never happens. But it's much more authentic if it's you actually talking, and it hasn't been chopped and changed and, you know, messed around with. If things don't come out quite right, hey, that's fine. That's not a problem. And that's the same when you're standing on stage. For some, you can practice, and absolutely get it perfect. And you can stand up there and it works. But for others, the practice, they get up there and they still lose what they're going to say. And then they panic even more because they knew they had it. So sometimes ad-libbing within reason can work very, very well. And the key is about knowing your subject, knowing what you're going to share and talk about. Because if you know what that is, most people, if you're, and I'm going to take business here because obviously this is, you know, typically around a bit of business, but if you're an expert in what you do in business, then you should be able to stand up in front of any audience and tell them about it. You haven't got to be a perfect public speaker to do that. But if you stood up and said, well, let me tell you about my gizmo, my gadget, and you're passionate about it, that will come across to the audience. You hadn't had to rehearse that because you know it inside out, because that's what you do. So it would come across very natural. And I find that natural side, that authentic side, is fantastic. If someone's got the confidence, or they can get to that point, they can just stand up and talk about anything or their particular subject or subjects, then it's always going to be a much nicer fit. It's always going to work really well compared to someone that's pretty much rehearsed it word for word. You know, every move that they do is being kind of rehearsed. It's almost like a play on a stage in the West End or something like that. We like it that way. But is that how we want to see other business owners? Probably not. We want to see the authentic them. We want to see.
Because I suppose it comes down to truthful then, doesn't it? It's very much that when someone's authentic, it's like you're not being pitched, or you're not being said this is what it is and you're just one of the many that I'm speaking to. It's very much when it's authentic, they're just being themselves, and trust seems to come in a lot more when obviously you've got that. And you know, you find that if someone's not being a robot. But he's right in what you're saying. I mean, I remember when I did my public speaking with Bradley, and I went in August. I mean, it wasn't until the night before that I actually wrote my speech out, and it was 4 pages long. And I was having a bit of a panic. I was like, you know, I didn't finish it till 11 o'clock the night before, and I knew what was going on in the morning. And sorry, I'm going to drink some of my Lemsip. A little bit on the dry. Yeah, and it was very much that I was having a bit of a panic, because I was like, you know, I don't know what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it. And this is the first time I'm going to be standing in front of so many people talking about my particular event, that happened and what happened to me. And it wasn't until someone just in passing turned around and said, "What are you worried about? You've lived it." And I was like, oh yeah. And because obviously, you know, it's just that passing words. And as you said, if you're passionate about something, or it's something that your business, it's your business, or you're working on something, or it's something that you've gone through in your life, you know it anyway. It's not as though you have to practice it. It's very much just knowing in the order, the strategy that you're going to be putting it in. And even when I read it out the night before, it was very much that, to me, it was 10 minutes. But I didn't have the audience being involved, or, things like pausing. It was just me reading it, and I'd done 10 minutes. But I'd got two pages in my head I'd gone through, and my 10 minutes was up, and I was only halfway through, and I was like, oh, panic stations. And Brad turned around and said, you've got another 2 minutes. And I was like, but then I just had to skip to the end, and it was just like, ah. But I knew that I had to grab the audience, because if I kept speaking, I never was going to get to the end. So it's very much that, when you're actually doing your public speaking, allow yourself, if you've done your speaking and you've got 10 minutes on stage, then make sure you do around about 7 to 8 minutes, because time you pause, the time you look around the audience, the time you stop for a couple of seconds, time anything happens at all, them seconds are going on top, and it ends up being another couple of minutes anyway. I mean, do you agree with that, David?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've seen so many people overrun, kind of what you did. They've rehearsed it, and they timed it, and they know it's going to be 10 minutes. Well, actually, when they stand there in front of that audience, it's never 10 minutes. One, because they will tend to ad lib a little bit in there, because they're not going to read typically from the script. But two, you're right. The audience interacting and all that type of stuff comes into play, and all of a sudden that 10 minutes is actually 20 minutes. And no one likes a speaker that overruns and steals someone else's time for the next person coming on. I've been involved in that scenario. I'd be on next or something like that, and that person overruns, and it causes ripple effects. And for the organisers, they hate it, because now they've got to try and find time from elsewhere and chop and cut things up. So I always say another top tip is to make sure that you finish on time, if not a little bit earlier, because it's easier to fill than it is to try and find time. So always have a little bit more up here ready to use, because if you've got the luxury of a timer on the stage counting you down, and you kind of almost got your message across, but you've got another little story, I've got another minute left, let me just add this in. So always quite good to have in your toolbox little things that you can pull out, maybe little stories, little anecdotes, things that you can share with the audience. But if you're running out of time, you don't need to use them. And that's one of the things I do teach, is about having stories in your toolbox, or information that you can share with your audience, and you can bolt all these things together. So whether you've got a 5-minute presentation, or a 10-minute presentation, or an hour, if you make lots of little stories up, then you can fit all those together, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a 10-minute presentation, or add another one on, now you've got 15 minutes, add another one on, you've got 20 minutes. The key is, obviously, it's got to flow, and it's got to be relevant to the audience you're speaking to. If you're just throwing stories in there left, right and centre, or information it's not relevant, then it's not going to work for them. But no, I absolutely agree. You've got to be so careful you don't overrun. And that comes again with time. Once you start doing 1, 2 or 3 and 4, you realise the pace that you work at. Some people will speak quicker on stage and speak slower when they're not on stage, or vice versa. We're all different. There's no wrong and there's no right. You've got to find what works for you, listen to the great advice that's out there, and take snippets of it.
Yeah, I mean, I was going through mine the other night, and it was very much that, if I go through what I was speaking about, it was going to be 15 minutes, and then I was going to put my little bit on the end of it. And it was the fact is, I was like, right, so we're actually realistically looking at a 20-minute speech. And I was like, can't do 20 minutes. It's very much that there's so many speakers going on now, that even if you thought, as you said, if you overrun even by a couple of minutes, and then you've got to get the next person on, it's just like, and everybody does that extra 2 or 3 minutes, you end up being like 2 or 3 hours behind. And and it does happen, and it's really easy to happen as well. And so I completely agree with you. So I've got to cut quite a few bits out, but my worry is, if I cut too much out, is that it's not actually really going to make sense, and it's not really going to captivate the audience to start with. So I think I'm going to need to have a chat with Mr. Bradley, and just to see what time I've actually got. Well, see if I can actually just squeeze him just a little bit, just a few more minutes. How many's a few more minutes? About 10. We'll see how we get on with that one. Right. So Robert's put in here: did the mod or MOD or mod your cell phones before smartphones came out? Do you know what that means?
Did your mod your cell phones before. Ah, one of you means did you modify?
Right, okay.
I maybe get some clarification from Robert there. Is that modify your cell phones before smartphones came out? So did I maybe start to take apart? I love to play. There's no doubt about it. I'm always looking at ways of adding or making things bigger and better. So going back to the mobile phone days when we all had the days of we've got a Nokia flip phone or something like that, or whatever it was people were using at the time. I was always looking at applications that could be loaded on there, or ways of. I wasn't quite Steve Jobs making free phone calls and stuff like that, but I was always looking at ways of modifying anything. To be honest, get better quality signal. Making free calls is always a bonus if you can find the ways around it.
So was you one of these children, like before you got to teenage years, just putting everything apart to see how it works?
It started quite young, actually, and if my dad was watching this, he would be sitting there nodding and going, yes. In the 80s, my dad brought home a CD player. And, in the early 80s, wow, this has gone from vinyl to CD, digital compact disc. Mm-hmm. And I remember taking that apart one day and he come home and I had the CD player in bits and he looked at me. I was only young, I was probably sort of 7 or 8 years old. And he looked at me, what have you done? I said, just learning. I'm looking to find out how it works. So yeah, I was a good, young boy, but I had my moments, of course.
Yeah, but even by doing that, it was very much that my eyes just won't stop running today. Even with that, even though if I'd come home, my children would have pulled things around, I would have probably pulled my hair out and gone, "What have you just done?" But the fact is that you wanted to learn at such a young age, and he was very much into all that kind of tech stuff already. It sort of, I suppose, it helped you as a young age, is what you really wanted to do.
Yeah, learning. I think the best way to learn is do something. Well, it depends on how you learn. I learn very visually, so let me have something, let me play with it, let me take it apart and put it back together. That's the way I learn. I'm one of these guys, and there's pretty lots of guys out there that sympathise with me on this, but if I go and buy something, and let's just I go to IKEA and buy a flat pack bit of furniture, I would never look at the instructions, or never used to. I'd just get it and go, right now to put that together, and you just crack on and do it. Yeah. I've learned over the years, actually, it's a good idea to have a quick browse at the instructions. And just now, even if you glimpse over, right, that bit there, that goes there. So I think as you grow older, you change a little bit. You start to realise that sometimes the quickest way is not your way. Sometimes the quickest way is the way it's presented to you.
I mean, it's very much, I've always been, back in the day, it's very much because I've not really been a technological person, and like taking things apart wasn't my thing. I was more or less like, if I took something apart, I was worried and scared that what if I can't get it back together again, then I won't be able to use it. So it's very much get someone else to take it apart and then show me how they did it and how they put it back together after. So I suppose you could look at it in a lazy way of doing it, but there's obviously another way of looking at it that, I'm good at delegation.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always that. You can delegate it to somebody else. Absolutely.
And then just say, right, now tell me how you took it apart, show me how you put it back together, and then I can do it myself while you're watching me do it. So I know that, and that's how I learn. That's how I've always learned. But obviously, Brad does stretch my mind a little bit and makes me do things that I've never done before. And I'm sitting there saying, what if I crash the computer?
If you do, hey, it's not a problem.
But you're saying that. I get exactly what you're saying. So Robert's put, okay, here's a question just popped in. How do you get from a vision to a plan that is congruent with that vision?
Okay, well, the first thing is to come up with what that vision is. It'd be different for everybody. Let's just take it's a product or a service, and your vision is to take that product to market. Maybe you've invented something. So I would certainly recommend that if you've got an idea, so that your vision is to use something like the business canvas, the business planning canvas. If you just Google business planning canvas, it will come up. There's some videos on YouTube you can watch. There's videos on the actual business planning canvas website as well. And I would literally take your idea and follow that canvas. It's very straightforward. It has a number of boxes on there, and you put your ideas in and you start to work your way round. And it's like a business plan. It's a one-page business plan, but it's not the sort of plan you take and put in front of an investor or a bank. What it's to do is to get the information in here, take the information out, and to get it onto a piece of paper. And once you've got it onto that paper, you can start to develop that idea. So take your vision, start to plan it, break it into, we all hear this, bite-sized chunks. Don't try and achieve everything overnight. Try and work with the idea, where you want to take the idea in a timeline. So let's just say in the next 12 months, I want to achieve X. I want to get the product to market, and then start to break down what you're going to be doing for the next quarter, and then break that down into a month, and then break that down into a week, and break it down into a day. And then if you need to, break it down into daily tasks. So it's all about making things achievable, because if you just say, I'm going to hit that big, huge target at the end of the year or 5 years, and you don't achieve that, the problem is then you become very despondent. You haven't achieved, you failed. It's a bit like New Year's resolutions. How many of the viewers, listeners set themselves New Year's resolutions? How many have failed already 3 days into the new year? So I don't tend to set myself a New Year's resolution, and if I do, it's small things that become very achievable. And I think for me, that's what, I'm not saying it's the same for everybody, but what works for me is making it a bite-sized chunk. So taking that vision, which was the original question Robert asked, taking that vision, using something like the tool, the business planning canvas, taking everything that's up here about that vision and getting it down onto paper, maybe working with someone else, because, you know, 2 brains are better than 1, 3 brains are better than 2. That's why things like mastermind groups work really, really well, because you've got maybe 8 or 10 or 12 other people in the room that can help you and guide you, who have experienced things in the past, the good, the bad, the ugly, and it's about bringing all that together. So don't also let that plan, that business plan, be the definitive. It's a living, breathing document. Today, it could be this. Tomorrow, it could be something very different. Next week, it could change again. And it's about reviewing that regularly, certainly weekly, and adapting and changing it, and sort of moving it through the steps bit by bit and achieving those goals.
Fantastic. There is a couple of you that have actually put like really, really long ones on there. I can't put that up the screen because you wouldn't just see me or David at all. It literally, there would be nothing left. So I'm obviously, David can read those after if he wants to, but obviously they are on there. But there is some like really, really big ones. I mean, you know, you've got ones like this. yeah, it just gets bigger and bigger. Right, okay, so hello, Avi, nice to see you, my lovely. Maxine, your story is so immense, you can't cut anything out, and if you did, it'd still be brilliant, so bless you. You know, I did make quite a few people cry on my story. And yeah, it's very much that I do worry that if I cut too much out, I'm going to lose half the story. But there is some things I know I can cut out, but even if I add the bits on the end of it that I want to add, which is the things to do with the 12, it's very much, it puts it back up to 15 minutes. So... yeah, everything that you got there. So you've also got Galia says, thank you for this great information, David. Galia is coming from Bulgaria, I think it is, if I remember rightly.
Galia. Welcome.
Yeah.
This evening.
Avi, my kind of nerd geek, love that. Avi's coming up from I think it's Cheshire. Using the Motor Factory programming software that it was suggested I could just find on the internet. I did find it. Okay, he's just letting you know he's found it.
Excellent.
Yes, David, I skim the instructions, but I follow my gut most of the time.
Yeah, that's my kind of guy. Well done.
Yeah, Avi's a great guy. Yeah, there's quite a few on here. Yeah, there's so many on there. So we will go back over those afterwards. Otherwise, we'll be talk about all the comments all the way through the show. Right. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is removing all boundaries. Now, I know that with your public speaking, obviously you do lots of events. I know we talked about, obviously, you know, whether you're talking to 10 people, whether you're talking to 1,100 people, and the best way to do it. But it's not just obviously on public speaking, it's also when it comes down to business as well. There are so many people, I mean, even with broadcasting, there's so many people that I come up against that go, I can't do this. I don't know how to do technology. I don't know what to say. I don't know where to be. I don't know. And it's always, I don't know how, rather than let me see if I can try. So what would you say to people, whether it's to do with life coaching, speaking, or whatever it is? I mean, obviously, you've covered a lot of speaking, but what would you say to people like trying to get into business rather than can't? What would you get them to do and to way to overcome everything?
I think the first thing is, for me, in business is about building relationships. One of the things I say, if someone says, what's a great business tip you'd like to share with us? I always say it's about relationships. It's about building relationships, developing relationships and maintaining relationships. So where this fits in, if you've just set up or you're thinking of creating a business, maybe you're still employed, you're working with an organisation, maybe you've already launched your business, but you're still working for somebody, you now got to take that step of being employed in a safe environment, getting your paycheck every month coming, into your bank account, your family's secure, you're paying your mortgage or whatever that might be, it's different for all. And now you've got to jump out of that and really go hammer and tongs at running your own business. Or maybe you've just started your own business, so you're at the very early stages. Removing those boundaries for me, one of the first steps is get out there. Go out, meet people. And if that is in a business environment, going down to a local networking group, a breakfast club, whatever you want to call it, is a great way to build those relationships. Don't go there with your salesman hat on. We've all heard this. If anyone goes networking, no one likes someone that's going to try and sell to them. Go along, be authentic, be you. Go along, sit next to people, move around. Different people have different tactics, but I just think it's about going there and having a conversation. Listen to what other people have got to offer, because 9 times out of 10, the way to connect with them is to listen to them and understand them. When they're ready, they're going to listen to you and understand what you do. And don't stick to just one group. Go out and explore. People say to me, what's the best networking group, for argument's sake? Now, in Essex alone, and I know lots of you guys are not from Essex, but in Essex alone, at the last count, there's about 77 networking groups. They will run either in the morning, at lunchtime, in the evening. So that's a lot of groups to get around and have a look. But you don't have to stop in Essex. Obviously, you can flow into other regions. What stops you going networking when you're on holidays, maybe? If you're a member, I'm not a member of BNI, but if you was a BNI member, or I think 4N even now, they have abilities for you to go and join other groups in other countries, go along as a guest. So don't necessarily stop at, your doorstep. Go out, build those relationships. Go out, learn about others. Go out and see how people can help you and make sure you can help them in return as well. So for me, that's starting to break down the barriers, because lots of people are already nervous at that point. Go and talk to other people. Go and have a conversation. I've not had to do that in my previous job, possibly. And then the next big thing is it leads back into speaking slightly, which I know we've kind of tapped on a bit, but they are always looking at various different groups, but business groups, for someone to stand up and share a 5 or 10 minute talk about their product, about their service, about who they are, about what they do, about how what you do can help somebody else. And I've seen it so many times, the organizer will turn around and say, who would like to speak next week? And everyone in the room gets their hand down. And you think, this is an opportunity that's on a plate for you. So this is where you've got to push your boundary a little bit. Be the first to put your hand up and go, I'll do it. Take that opportunity. So certainly if you've been there maybe, a little while, because it's a safe place. You know the people in the room. So take the opportunity to start trialing your public speaking. Start trialing, standing up and talking to small audiences. And them audiences might only be 10 to 20 to 30 people. And then you can start to build upon that. So that's about breaking down the boundaries, certainly, is go out there, get talking, get meeting, get building those relationships. And very important, maintain them afterwards as well. Because you can't meet someone once or twice. You've got to keep building it and developing it thereafter.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a member of BRN, which is a car from BNI. And I did it for about 1.5 years when I first opened my business up. And I stopped it last October. Not this one before. So it was around about 15 months ago that I stopped going there. And just the circumstances at home, the fact is I had no one to have my daughter in the morning, because it was from 6:30 in the morning until 8:30. And she goes to school and she has to be in school by 8:25. So it was very much that I had no one getting her up, and it was very much that I just had to stop going. But, while I was there, it's like you're mixed with like 25, 35, 40 people, as you said. And it's very much you all get to know each other. You see each other on a weekly basis. You pay like a fee to start, like to be in it. And then you pay a monthly fee to be there, and includes your breakfast. And it's very much you used to get on there, you have friends. I mean, there's still people that I speak to now, and you have people from all over. I mean, you have people from doing cars, you have people to do, undertakers, right through to hypnotherapists. There's just all different kinds of people there. And normally you have one of each person. And it was very much that, what we used to do is that it used to be in a list of who was going to be on next. And I remember that I had to do my 10-minute talk because we had a minute. Everybody had to stand up and have a minute and tell people like their elevator pitch of what they did. And obviously I did mine about Party Crown Direct. And it was very much that sometimes it's like whoever done the best talk He's they got 2 minutes the week after. And it was very much because I had to stand up in front of people and talk. When it was after my minute, it was like I had to do 2 minutes. And I was like, I don't know what to say. And I used to fall apart. And I used to say things and I used to get things wrong and I used to be blushing. And when they turned around and said to me, right, it's your 10 minutes in 2 weeks' time to actually do a presentation. I was like, how am I going to do this? So I actually put the presentation on a what do we call it? A slide. I did a slide presentation, and I had to actually sit next to the presentation because I couldn't physically stand because my legs were a jelly so much. And these are people that I'd known for over a year, right? My legs were a jelly so much that I couldn't stand, and I just had to look at the presentation the whole time and not speak to anybody, because as soon as I looked at them, I just fell apart. And it just wasn't my time. I just wasn't ready to do what I was doing. And when obviously I did my first presentation last July, and I stood up for the first time, and I was like, you've just got to go out, you just got to do this, and you just got to get it done, and you just got to know that it doesn't matter how many people are looking at you, they don't know your story as well as you know your story. Yeah. So if you muck up, they're not going to know any different.
Absolutely. Top tip, Matt. No one knows what you're going to say.
Yeah.
So you know your story. If you don't share every point of it, if you miss a bit out, they don't know that anyway. And people get nervous over that because they're frightened they're going to forget something. But if your audience didn't know it in the first place, they didn't know you forgot it either. So that's a really, really top tip that you just shared there.
Good, thank you.
And I also saw Nigel's comment actually. He said he joined the chamber in Newcastle, Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
Of the northeast of England, and as a prime example, I'm sure Nigel could probably go into a bit more detail there. But he obviously joined the North of England Chamber, and as he put here, that move by going along to that opened up the NHS 70 that he did, and I've seen lots of that, and probably lots of people have seen all the great publicity and news, and more importantly, what Nigel's achieved by doing that over the last. He's been doing it quite a long time, but this one obviously been over the last
2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
He does amazing,
and I example of networking.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? If anybody actually wants to know about networking, Nigel is the man to go to. Nigel, you're about to get bombarded, I'm afraid, because Nigel has met so many celebrities. He's got people to help him out. He's got people he goes to. He even got Luke Skywalker to do a little testimonial for him. Yeah, he got so many different
famous people than. Yeah. Oh, it's unbelievable. Every time I see his Facebook, and I follow Nigel or the Secret Hamper on Facebook, every time he's talking to someone new. I don't know how you do it, Nigel. You do a great job of. I think you just go up to and say, "Hi, I'm Nigel. Can you put a mask on?" And they do, and it works, which is fantastic and a great way of using celebs to sell your product or service. In Nigel's case, what he does.
And not only that, I've actually got Nigel on broadcasting this month as well. So for the whole of January, I've got him broadcasting so people can get to know about Secret Hamper, because it is such an amazing thing that he does.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And if you actually want to know any more about Nigel's Secret Hamper and what it is to be a superhero for someone, which Richard Fay helped Nigel with that as well. We put a donation in, and so he can give 5 hampers out. It was absolutely amazing. I was interviewing Nigel, and Richard put in 250 quid to send 5 hampers out to people with Alzheimer's in care homes, and it was an amazing thing, and it was really nice. It was really sweet, and I just said to Nigel, you've got to come on, you've got to broadcast, even if it's just for a month, just for people to get to know you and travel the globe, because it's absolutely amazing. It's just getting yourself out there, and it's networking with the right people, not just everybody and anybody. You need to speak to the right people, because nowadays it's not about who you know, it's who knows you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's exactly that. So if you could turn around and say, just very quickly, because we are running out of time. We've literally been 55 minutes already. What would you say was the perfect presentation when you actually go and do a public speak? What would you say that you start with, your middle and your end?
Okay, so kind of in a nutshell, you've got to have a really good opener. So a good presentation is a bit like a book. You've got to have a good start, a strong middle, and a really good end. That captivates your audience kind of throughout that presentation. Presentations and talks, keynotes, whatever you want to refer to them, do not necessarily need to be half hour, an hour long. Some good talks can be literally 5 minutes. It's to captivate your listener, to captivate your person or the audience that are watching you. So think about how you're going to open. If you just stand up and say, "Hi, I'm David. Hopefully I'm not going to bore you today." We've all probably seen someone do that. The first thing you think is, they're going to bore me.
They bore me.
They just told me they're going to bore me. And automatically people start switching off. You want to captivate them in the people there. And that could be just being different sometimes. It could be you stand up and use a startling fact. I'm sure Nigel could stand up there. Yes, he's just put there. Thanks, guys. Nigel could probably, stand up and give us some facts in the NHS that would be mind-boggling. And all of a sudden, we're listening. So a startling fact, a rhetorical question, get people thinking. Ask them a question. You're not necessarily looking for them to give you a definitive answer. Maybe a show of hands. But get people engaged early on. And for me, it's about sharing stories. If Nigel stood up and just talked about, I'm picking on Nigel here because obviously he popped up, but if Nigel was to stand up and just talk about the hampers that he's, provides, etc., we wouldn't probably be engaged. Don't get me wrong, we'd probably listen. But if he stands up and now starts to tell us the stories, what the secret hamper is really about, the lives that it's changed, that to me is what's going to make an interesting presentation. And actually, without picking on Nigel, I met Nigel, I think 18 months ago. And I was presenting a large networking group, and I asked for a volunteer. And we grabbed Nigel out, and he'd come up and he sat on stage, and we did a bit like we're doing now, a Q&A, but live with a live audience. And he said to me, I was so nervous, but he pushed his boundaries. And by that particular day, that was the first time I met him. And his journey, in my eyes, started then. I started following him on Facebook. I started watching what the business does and what it achieves and the lives that is impacting and changing. So, and I wouldn't have been the only person that day that probably took that route to understand more about the secret hamper. And that's the power of sharing your story with an audience. And one last thing on that as well,
absolutely,
is that when you're talking to an audience, 99% of them, because there'll always be one in that audience that's not, but 99% will be focusing and listening to you. That's the most powerful form of marketing you can get. If you go and put a load of leaflets through doors, yes, you'll get something will work, of course you will. But if you've got 100 people in an audience and they're all listening to you, as long as what you're telling them is impacting on them, then they're going to walk away. As long as they remember it. They don't have to remember the whole presentation. They need to remember one thing, one golden nugget they take away, and that steers them, to follow you if that's what you're looking for, to buy something from you longer term. So, yeah, public speaking is super powerful. I don't like the public speakers that sell from stage. That's not me. I wouldn't want to stand up there and try and sell something, run to the back of the room and buy this. It's not what I'm trying to do. People out there do it, and it does work. I'm not condemning it, but it's not who I am. I want people to engage with me because they want to, not because they get such a great offer there and then, save yourself £10,000 kind of thing. But again,
exactly, and I completely agree with you. And it's very much, it's like people say to me, why do you broadcast? Why do you do that? What do you get out of it? Or what I get out of it is there's people across the globe that know me, and I get messages all the time. It's like, I really enjoyed your broadcast. It helped me out so much. And I know that when it comes to my book, that there'll be so many people around the world that can take that book and read it. And once they read it, it's like there might be something in there that can help them or help somebody that they know, or they can pass it to somebody that they know that can help them then. And it's very much that, trying to get yourself out there, as we said just now, it's like, it's not about what you know, it's who knows you.
Yeah.
And by doing it, obviously, this global, it's not about selling to people why I'm here. It's all about giving as much content as I can and bringing in people that I know that not only just absolutely amazing, that can give out content, that are happy to be here and to help other people, and they've got big hearts themselves to turn around and go, do you know what, I'm quite happy to to help out and do this, and sometimes, it does happen that, like Nigel, he got £250 for a hamper. I also had Gary Daz on, who obviously you met at, I think you met at, you met at the Adam Stott's event.
Yeah.
That's it. And he got 2 mortgages out of it, because he's obviously been a mortgage advisor. And it's very much that, people do pick up stuff why they do this, but it's not just about doing that. It's all about giving content over that helps other people, because you never know, someone might actually turn and say, do you know what, I really enjoy what you're doing. Perhaps you can be my life coach. You just never know. It does happen.
And that's where networking is great. When you've got 20 people in the room, don't look at it as 20 sales opportunities. Look at it the opposite way. This is 20 advisors There are 20 people. If I've got a question on accounts, because there's an accountant there, or a legal, because there's a solicitor there, or whatever, the different professions are in the room, there's people there that will quite happily help me. In return, obviously, I would help others as well. So look at it. These groups are not networking. Sometimes I think is the wrong word. Networking, yes, you get to meet and greet, but they're support groups. They are people in business like the rest of us who need a little bit of help now and then, but are also willing to give a little bit of help now and then. There's always one that won't, and they'll be waving around their business card and telling you that they charge this and they won't give you any free advice. If you want it, you've got to pay for it. But we know they're not the right people to be engaging with. That's fine.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. I mean, it's very much that between friends or between people that you do get to know, no money does change hands. It's what you can do to help each other out. There'll be something that they need and something that you need. And not only that, it also comes down to as well, it's not obviously, if don't ever turn around to anyone and say, oh, you're not really worth my time because you've got nothing to offer me. Because at the end of the day, even if that particular business or that particular person doesn't do what you offer, it might be you're doing, life coaching and this person does mechanics. It's something completely opposite. But the fact is, they might actually know somebody that knows somebody else that can actually, and that's the thing. It's a networking in different ways rather than just looking at first contact. And I think some people just forget that. They just think, oh, I don't want to speak to that person. They're not going to do nothing for me. And that's the wrong way to think. It's very much, you've got to think with your heart. You've got to think with your brain. And you've got to go out there and just network with and talk to everybody. And as you said, making relationships is a major thing out there. So just a question I'm going to ask you is, what have you got planned for your next 12 months? Because I know you're battles and forwards to Spain.
Yes. So last year, part of our journey was to buy a place over in Spain. So we're in southern Spain, and spend some R&R time, some time, us, the family, doing what we wanted to do. Down tools a little bit and enjoy life a little bit more. I'm not one to retire. My dad actually retired when he was 77, and I can see me kind of heading down that same route. Obviously, you reduce the amount of hours you do, but I have to do something. I can't sit around. I get very bored if sitting there for too long. I need to get up and do something. So the idea was obviously have some time to ourselves. But one of the reasons we did what we did was because we want to allow the customers that we're working with, our clients, the opportunity to come over and join us at our business retreat. To come over and spend, 2 or 3 days, in some cases, some it will be a little bit longer, and spend time working on their ideas, working on their vision, working on their plans, and putting together what their next 12 months or their next 5 years looks like. And I know that can be done here in the UK. They could do it in their office, but there's so many distractions, things that get in the way. So if we can eradicate those distractions, bring them to us, they get some real quality one-to-one time working on their ideas, some guidance, some advice, certainly some caring and sharing. And then at the same time, they can relax and hopefully in a 340 odd days worth of sunshine, there's a good chance that while they're there, the sun's going to be shining, they can relax, kick back a little bit in the evenings, maybe, if they want to drink or have a swim in the pool or enjoy the other facilities that we can lay on for them. So that's about working with our clients and giving them something a little bit different, something a little bit what we believe is unique, and giving them the opportunity to really kind of focus on their next move. So that's one of the things that's coming later this year for people we're working with. If anyone's ever interested in that, they're more welcome to sort of reach out and I can share more about it with them. And
sorry, David, if you put that, there's a little box down there that you can actually message me. If you want to message me in that little box, I'll then put it on here now. So then at least then it's on there. So if anybody actually does want to retreat, or whether you're looking to bring yourself forward in your business or anything when it comes down to David helping you in any way that you think, is possible. But there's so many different things and so many different areas that David works with that I don't think there's going to be many things that people are not going to be able to come to you for.
No, and I'll be honest, I don't. There's so much information out there, and I know I have areas of speciality, and then the areas that I would want to work with people, and there's areas that I'll bleed into, but it's not my area of expertise. But one of the things through 20 plus years of running businesses and networking and meeting and building relationships, I have people that if I'm not the right fit, then I know someone that is or can. So signposting is something I do a lot of. Directing people in the right direction, by all means, come over, enjoy the business retreat, and enjoy the sunshine, etc. But it might be if they want to come over and talk about something that's not my area of expertise, I'm not the right person. I'd be very upfront and say, look, I can give you some guidance, but you need to be speaking to you know, John or Mary or whoever it will be.
Yeah.
And this is the, I think for me, this is the key again about building relationships. You can't know everything yourself. You've got to understand, and certainly small business owners, we've got to understand that there's people out there who have got expertise and the right training and the right qualifications in the areas that we don't. Reach out. You might have to pay for some of that experience, of course, but in some cases, some of that advice will be free as well.
Exactly. So if you can put that in the comments for me, David, and what I'll do is I'll talk to the audience while you're typing that up, and then I can put it in for you, and then it's all done. Then at least then they've got that they can obviously reach out to you if they need to.
All I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share my email address. That's probably the easiest way.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to just get in touch, just ping me an email across, and then we can have a conversation. I'm a great believer in a conversation. Doesn't cost anything, and we can see if it's a fit for them or what we can do.
Exactly. And you know, as I said, I've known David for a good few months now, and the fact is he's probably one of the most honest, upfront people that can sit and talk to you and spend time with you. But it's all about investing in yourself as well, because once you invest in yourself to move yourself forward, you're not going to be stuck. Because if you're the highest person that you've actually got in your business or in your life, you're not going to literally stretch yourself or go any further forward. It's very much that you need people around you, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, whether it's someone that you need to speak to. You know, at least then by that, it's you know that you can go further forward and everything that you can achieve. Right, so I'm just moving that over there so then we can actually put that on the comments. So guys, what I'm going to do is I'm just putting in the comments there from David what he's brought over. So you've got his email address. You've also got his website there as well. So if you do want to touch base with David at any time, it's actually on there. So at least then you've got that. David, it's come to our time, my lovely, that we've run out of time with obviously doing your interview. We've actually gone to 1 hour and 10 minutes, which is probably the longest one I've ever done.
That's because you're such amazing, you know, host and presenter. That's what it's all about. You keep.
I do try my best. So what I do want to say to you, sorry, don't disappear there, David, because we can chat off. It's not a problem. So what I would like to say to everybody that's listening today, I think it's been absolutely amazing. What I do want to say to you, we have got our wellness event, which is Rajan Bosie's event, which is on the 13th of January 2019. Now, tickets are available and they are going really, really good price at the moment. They are £19 for you to come and see this wellness event. He's got many different speakers talking about everything to do with hypnotherapy. It could be yoga, it could be dietitian, it could be a personal fitness, it could be all different things to do with the wellness side of it. Because at the end of the day, you've got to be healthy in your business, in your own personal self, to make your business move forward. So, you know, it's always a good thing to start beginning of the year. Let's start wellness, let's start your health, making sure that you move forward with it. So I just wanted to put that in there for you, ladies and gents. You've also got the 2nd and 3rd of February 2019. We've got our empowerment event, which, as I mentioned before, we've got over 45 confirmed speakers. That includes Douglas Vermeeren. You've got Andy Harrington. Obviously, you've got the Bradley Chapman. He's going to be there because he's the man heading it up, which is absolutely amazing. You've got Alfie Best, who brings, you know, he's worth £500 million. You know, for someone like that to actually give you some kind of information that's actually going to spend time with you. You've also got Greg Walker that's coming over from America. You've got Armin Marin. I spoke to Armin the other day, and wow, you know, this guy has sold over £200 million worth of business in his lifetime. 200 million. I mean, that's just off the chain. You've also got people like Tim Burt that also, he knows about advertising, how to advertise himself. He worked for CBS Radio for like 16 years. And obviously you've got the 12, and that includes me. So I will be speaking on stage. I'm going to be there. Now also, Brad's just put up there as well the last day or so that Daniela Westbrook from is also going to be there. She's from EastEnders. Now, not only is she an actress and she's also an author, she's also going to be starting her very own speaking career. This is going to be her first first time on stage, and this is going to be her lift off. I think Brad's going to stand there holding her hand to make sure that she's going to be okay. Her knees are going to be knocking. She's going to have her sweaty palms. Her heart's going to be beating. But what an amazing event to come to make it her first one. And I think she's going to be absolutely amazing. She's got a big story to tell. So for any of you that actually want to be at our empowerment weekend, you're more than welcome to. At the moment, it's half price. The tickets are all half price. So prices range from anything from £10 for a student, right up to £2,225 if you want to speak on stage. We've also, I'm just putting it in the comments as well for you. So you've got your speaking slots there that you can go for. We've got 5, 10 and 20 minutes. We've only got very few spaces left on that one. And we've also got, if you want to be in the audience, you can do that too. We've got 1,100 spaces per day. It's over a whole weekend, which is Saturday and Sunday, starting from averagely 8 o'clock at 9 o'clock in the morning, right through to 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. And on the Saturday night, we're going to have a big networking event that everybody can go at the Islet Hotel, have the big networking event in London. Everyone can get together, get to know each other. And also you'll get to meet some of the VIPs as well. Put yourself in a VIP. I mean, at the end of the day, it's half price tickets. You know, for any time that you can afford to actually have your pitch taken, get autograph books. You know, my book's going to be sold there because it's going to be my launch event of my book. So it's going to be absolutely amazing. David, again, if you're free, you can always come along. You know, it's absolutely an amazing thing. So, you know, I just want to put it out there that if you do actually want to get yourself tickets, you've got the go to Eventbrite, and you can obviously pay for those as well. And as I said, get it till from now until the 20th of January. It's going to be half price. So that is absolutely amazing. And I'm really looking forward to it. So I just want to say to everybody that's come on tonight, thank you very much for all your comments. Thank you very much for your questions, all your loves, all your reactions, all your likes, all your smiley faces. And I'd love to see you again on Sunday. I will be here. I'll be getting my next celebrity in, which I'm not going to tell you who it is because I'm going to make you tune in because that's what I do best. So Celebrity Corner will be on Sunday, the Sunday the 7th of January at 8 p.m. and I'll be here. So goodbye from me, and goodbye from David.
Goodbye from me, and thank you for having me. And Happy New Year to everybody, and all the best for 2019.
Fabulous. So thank you very much, guys, and I will speak to you all very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.